Greetings, everybody. We are live. We are super stoked to welcome Allyn Hinton today. I can't think of any reason to not go right now. Can you, Fig?
No, let's go.
Okay, so I'm going to do it. If you'll pick it up after his So There I Was and hand it to me, and I'll introduce him.
You got it.
All right, here we go.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcast.
This here is a true story about crossing the pond at night in the world's smallest cockpit on the tanker through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the...
Am I on?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Where you want me to start?
So there I was.
So there, we want your So There I Was with your NVA soldier.
Okay. Yeah, I was flying as a co-pilot that day with Gary Olszewski. We were the low bird on a low-level recon around the Da Nang area. We used to fly that every morning and every evening before sundown. And sometimes you'd find the strangest things, because I remember one time flying the early morning recon. We found 4 rockets in a rice paddy there in the morning, and I know for a fact the day before I'd flown over that same area, and they weren't there the day before. So sometime during the night, the NVA had moved them down, and I guess getting ready to fire them off at Da Nang, which regularly happened, but most of the time those rockets didn't hit the city of Da Nang or the airfield. They were usually overshot and landed in the South China Sea. But I was flying the low-level recon as a co-pilot with Gary Olszewski. He was the pilot that day, and we flew over this, what were the remains of a bombed-out South Vietnamese house. And one of the gunbirds that was covering us said, "Hey, somebody just stuck their head up out of this hole and was cutting the concrete floor." The South Vietnamese would oftentimes, the houses were built on a concrete slab, and they would cut a hole in the concrete and dig out underneath it and then live down there kind of in a homemade bunker. And so that was rather interesting, that because when we flew over, it just looked like a black hole in the concrete slab. So we did a quick 180, and as I said, I was flying as Olszewski's co-pilot that day. The guy that wrote the schedule had it down the opposite way, and I'd have been the pilot, and Olszewski would have been my co-pilot. None of what I'm about to tell you would have ever happened. But anyway, so he does a quick 180, and we're hovering over this thing, and the crew chief in the back says, "Hey, let me throw a smoke grenade in there and see what happens." So we're hovering about 3 feet over the hole in the concrete slab, and he drops a smoke grenade in there, and about 8 guys come bailing out. 2 of them were in NVA uniforms, and the rest of them were in black pajamas like most of the civilians. And 7 of them stayed together and ran over toward this other bunker, and I guess hunkered down there. And Olszewski took off chasing this one that went in the opposite direction over toward this village, run along the tops of the rice paddy dikes. And I can't see anything because he's keeping the guy he's chasing in sight, and the instrument panels blocking my view of what's going on. I'm sitting over there holding on for dear life, hoping that ski doesn't crash the damn helicopter doing this, because we're flying about 5-10 feet off the deck,
Shit.
popping up over trees and stuff like that. So anyway, next thing I know, and this was in the spring before they flooded the rice paddies. They were, planting the rice, and then they later flood them. So the rice paddy was dry. And Olszewski plops the aircraft down this rice paddy, and I look out my window. I'm on the left side of the aircraft, and I can see this young kid standing in the ruins of this bombed out house. And Olszewski says, "Get that son of a bitch." And Corporal Alexander in the back, he hops out and with the only rifle we have in the aircraft and heads up there toward where this bombed out house is, about 25, 50 yards from where the helicopter's sitting. And I figured, well, I better give him a hand, so I unbuckle. And I used to carry a .45 automatic and a hip holster, unlike most of the pilots. Carried 38s in their
a pea shooter compared to a 45.
Yeah, so I pull out my 45. Now, be mindful of the fact I'm approaching this kid. I mean, he was a little guy. I mean, he was about 5'4" and looked like he maybe weighed 110 pounds, wringing wet. And he's got the deer in the headlights look on his face. And I got my pistol out and I'm pointing it right at him. Well, he takes off running to my left out of the building down onto the rice paddy, and he almost steps on Alexander as he runs by him, because he doesn't apparently notice that Alexander's laying there on the ground with the M16 that he has with him. So Alexander pops up and starts chasing him. So I'm bringing up the rear now. And I'm sure that, and out in the field, there's civilian Vietnamese out there working their fields and everything. And Alexander, is chasing him down, and I'm bringing up the rear. And Alexander drops the rifle, so I got to stop and pick it up and continue the chase. Well, Alexander finally catches up to the kid, pushes him down into a rice paddy there, jumps on his back, and I finally come up there, and we got him down on the ground. And now the question is, where's Olszewski in the helicopter? Because we can't hear it. It's disappeared. We've gone around a couple of tree lines in the process of chasing this kid around. But finally he comes hovering around. The door on the left side where I'd been sitting is still open, flapping around. And we throw him in the back there and take him up to Da Nang and call up the Direct Air Support Center, the desk, and we asked them, what should we do? We captured a suspect, and they said, well, at the north end of the main airfield there at Da Nang is where the provost marshal's office was. They said, just land up here and hover over to that end of the field. So we do that. In the meantime, the kid had been trying to ditch this wallet that he had, but Alexander got it and took it away from him. And we land there and shut the aircraft down. And this Marine captain comes out. I was a first lieutenant at the time. Said, what we got here? And I said, well, this guy's suspicious. I don't know whether he's a Viet Cong or just a civilian, got in the wrong place at the wrong time, whatever. And I said he had this wallet on him. And in the wallet, he actually had a laminated ID card that looked just like the kind that we issue. Okay, and this grunt captain that was the provost marshal, he looks at this thing and said, well, yeah, this kid's Viet Cong. And I said, well, how do you know that? He says, well, right there in Vietnamese on the top of this ID card, it says National Liberation Front in Vietnamese. And I said, and that was when I got I says, you're telling me that these guerrillas that we're fighting out here and everything have a support system that issues them laminated ID cards just like the ones we have? He said, oh, yeah,
Wow.
that's not, okay. So anyway, that was my big.
Wow.
Other than that, most of what I did was just fly the helicopter gunships most of the time. We had about 35 E-model Hueys in the squadron, and 30 of them were configured as gunships with M60s on each side. We did a lot of escorting the medevac and resupply birds and stuff. And then we kept about 5 of them for missions like the low-level recon, or sometimes VIPs would come over and we'd give them rides around in the helicopter.
Allyn, I'm gonna stop you right there. We got to do the intro. That was a hell of a So There I Was story, and I can't wait to go further. But welcome to So There I Was. This is Fig. I'm lucky enough to be at home today. Where's my co-host?
I'm home as well. Repeat here, home in New Hampshire, and coming to us from South Carolina today is none other than Allyn Hinton Jr., who has an amazing career spanning at least almost 3.5 decades.
42 years.
42 years. Okay, over 4 decades in Army and Marine aviation. That was a Marine aviation story, but Captain Hinton, your son got a hold of us, and thank you. We also need to say thank you to Badass for putting your son in touch with us and bringing you to our attention. We are thrilled to have you with us at the ripe young age of 82, is it?
83.
83. Well, congratulations. That is absolutely awesome. We have to go back and ask if you would tell us how it is you first came into, in your case, jumping out of airplanes in the Army. Don't you know that's dangerous, sir?
Well, believe it or not, it all started in 1957 when Army was having this outstanding football season, and I was starting left guard on my varsity high school football team at the age of 15. And so I kind of latched on to this idea that, well, I'm going into the Army and play football. And then my counselor, my junior year, says, well, there's a college attached to that football team. It's called West Point, and you got to apply to get in. You got to get your congressman to appoint you. So I contacted Lenore Sullivan, who represented, I was living in St. Louis at that time because we'd moved around a lot. My dad had been a pilot in the Coast Guard. But believe it or not, he would never take us kids for an airplane ride, no matter how much we bugged him to, hey, Pop, take us for an airplane ride and everything. I ain't paying no money to rent an airplane to take you kids for some joyride. They pay me to fly these things. I ain't. So anyway, here I am, the son of a Coast Guard aviator, and never been up in an airplane before in my life. And I was going to try to go to West Point, and I got Congresswoman Lenore Sullivan, who was unusual for that time, one of the few females representing that district in the western part of the city of St. Louis and a little bit of St. Louis County. And, she was a Republican too, and hell, a Republican couldn't get elected in that area today, no matter what. So anyway, I take all the tests and everything and get a physical, and she gives me the first alternate appointment to West Point to start there in the fall of 1960. But the kid that was the principal appointee didn't flunk any part of the thing, he passed everything too. So he was off to West Point, and I didn't know what to do. So I was still only 17 years old, and I was getting ready to graduate from high school. And so I went down to the Army recruiting office and, got talking to them. And back then you could enlist in the Army for 2 years, but they had a draft. So it was basically if you volunteered for the draft, but hell, I hadn't even registered for the draft because you didn't have to do that till you were past your 18th birthday. So I said, but the recruiter said, but if you if you want to sign up for 3 years, you get your pick of what you want to do. And so I asked him, I said, well, I heard them paratrooper guys made extra money. Is that true? Oh, yeah, they make extra $55 a month. I said, okay, put me down for that. So anyway, but my folks had to sign for me. So I graduated from high school on the 16th of June, 1960. On the 20th of June, the following Monday, I was on the bus to Fort Leonard Wood to start basic training with the Army. I was a brand new Army recruit. Made it through basic training, they assigned me to Signal Corps. I went to Fort Gordon, Georgia, learned to be a radio operator. And during my 3 years of being on active duty on the Army, after I learned to be a radio operator, I never once operated a radio.
During the current theme, I think.
So anyway, then I ended up going through jump school in March and April of 61 when they still had it there at Fort Bragg. And I played on the football team at Fort Bragg in 61, 62. And so, I wasn't all that popular when I came back to my unit.
Yeah. Can you tell us what basic training was like in those days in the Army? I'm imagining it was probably pretty intense.
Actually, haven't been a high school athlete. I mean, even though I'm not that impressive, I mean, compared, when I tell people I played on the line at 180 pounds, they say, "Oh my God!" But you could get away with that back when, now you got to be 6 foot something and 240 to be an offensive guard or defensive tackle. So anyway, actually, I didn't think basic training was all that hard. I mean, it was a lot of drill, right shoulder arms, left shoulder arms. The longest thing we ever did was toward the end of the 8 weeks. We did they said it was a 20-mile hike, but it didn't seem all that long. And then had a bivouac out in the field in the pup tents for a couple of days. And the big thing there was 2 weeks in the middle going to the rifle range and qualifying with the old M1 rifle, which I did. It wasn't all that big a deal.
Sure.
But I didn't find, and most of the guys that I was in basic school with were draftees. Remember we had a lot of draftees from St. Louis and Chicago down there at Fort Leonard Wood going to basic training. Okay.
Nice. All right.
Did my 3 years and got out and went to college.
Nice. Yes.
Had great scores. I remember right before I got out, you had to go. The last place you had to check out at there at Fort Bragg was the battalion career counselor, and Sergeant First Class Morgan was his name, and he'd been my platoon sergeant when I first joined the unit. And then when I went off to play football, when I came back, they had moved him up to the battalion headquarters to be the battalion career counselor. And he's looking at my scores on all my tests that they give you in reception and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "My God," he says, "I can't believe the scores you have on all your tests. You don't have anything below 120. He says, plus, and I remember in basic, when we were taking all the tests, they gave the test to everybody. And then they came in, they said, well, most of you will be excused, but we're going to call the names of a few people. And if we call your name, stay in the room. And first thing that goes through my mind is, well, these are people that are going to be on KP tomorrow or something,
Right.
So anyway, they called my name and about 9 or 10 other guys' names out of about 50 of us sitting there in the room. And they said, okay, all of you have scored. These tests were all multiple choice, and they ran them through the machine, and they had the results immediately, whatever. Okay. And you folks all scored high enough on your tests and everything that you got one more test to take, and that's for OCS. but you can't start OCS until you're 18 and a half because we can't commission you a lieutenant in the Army until you're 19 years old, which is something I didn't know. And here I am. I still haven't seen my 18th birthday yet.
Right.
So I sit down and take their test. And well, Morgan's looking at the test scores. And he says, good God. He says, you had everything was over 120. And, in some areas you were tested out at 135, 140.
You're way too smart to be in the Army.
Huh?
Yeah.
You're way too smart to be in the Army.
Well, and he says, you scored high enough. He says, I could re-enlist you and get you orders right to OCS. And I said, nah, I'm getting out and going to college because I've already contacted Southeast Missouri State and been accepted down there in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Who's the most famous person to come out of Cape Girardeau, Missouri?
One by the name of Harry Truman, if I recall.
No, Harry Truman was from Independence.
Okay.
Somebody closer to your field here. Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, that's right. He was from
Limbaugh's hometown was Cape Girardeau, Missouri. It's
Cape Girardeau. Yeah.
Halfway between St. Louis and Memphis. And between St. Louis and Memphis, it's the only place there's a bridge across the river to Illinois. If you want to go across the river in between there. But anyway, so I went there, and while I was there, I knew about the Navy Aviation OCS program. And I went down, went to the Navy recruiter there in Cape Girardeau and asked him, I said, I'm interested in the Naval Aviation OCS. They made that movie, Officer and a Gentleman, about that.
Right.
So anyway, so the recruiter said, well, what year are you in school? I said, I'm just a freshman starting out, but man, I'm interested. I'll do this. And the recruiter said, well, come back when you're about halfway through your junior year and, we'll start the paperwork and everything. So I filed that away. Well, it's the fall semester of my sophomore year, and I'm cutting through the student union. I got a couple hours off before I got to go down to football practice. And Captain Ogle from the officer selection team of the Marine Corps is down at Cape Girardeau recruiting college kids that think they want to be officers in the Marine Corps. And I get talking to him and everything. He says, we got a better deal than what the Navy's offering. You can go 2 6-week summer sessions to Quantico. And if you make it through that, when you graduate from college, we'll make you a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps. In fact, you'll even guarantee you an aviation slot, but you had to come over and take all these tests and everything. So I went up one weekend to St. Louis and took all the tests that he wanted to take on and everything. And next time I hear from him, well, you passed everything. You're good to go. And so I went up to Quantico, and first summer 66, and my second summer was summer 67. And, I was out at Camp Upshur out there in the boondocks of Quantico with a bunch of college kids. I was the only guy that had any military service.
Okay.
And so I went through PLCs, which I think you went through too, didn't you?
We both did, yeah.
Big
did it in one summer, and I failed Life's IQ test and did it in 2 summers. So,
I didn't take me but about 15 minutes of being there to understand what the name of the game was here, because they bring in all these college kids. They've already given them mental tests to prove you're smart enough that we can teach you anything you need to know down the road.
Okay.
We've given you a physical. You don't have a heart murmur or some other thing that's going to kill you. So we're going to find out how much you really want to do this, because I was expecting a lot of drill and, nitpicky inspections and all that stuff, which, not once did they ever come around out there at Camp Upshur to check to make sure my socks were rolled properly or any of that stuff.
They didn't do that sort of shit at Camp Upshur, because they sure did it at Camp Barrett. Brown Field. I'll tell you that.
Well, as I said, I did the first summer there, and then the second summer, if you're familiar with Quantico, you know where the air station is at Quantico.
Right, down on Main side there.
And then right across from, before you get to the entrance to the Quantico Air Station, there's a group of little white buildings down there, and the swimming pool is right there where those buildings are.
off,
And the second,
off the grinder.
yeah, the second summer I was there, we were the PLCs that were in the second summer. They housed us down there in those little white buildings that were down there. And I remember every morning we'd have to march up over the bridge, over the river, that creek that feeds into the Potomac River there, and go up to the main field where you could start the hill trail and all that stuff from.
What was that creek? That was over at the Chop Annex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, that creek bed that, and so that was, and I called all the guys together at the end, at the barracks when the staff wasn't around one night. And I said, guys, they, in fact, one of the students told me, one of the other kids I was with that had never been in the military says, I thought this was going to be a lot like college. We'd have a lot of classes and stuff. The only classes I remember was they gave us some classes in Marine Corps history and then gave us a 57 or 50 question multiple choice test, right, on the history of the Marine Corps, right? Remember that test in PLCs?
Yeah,
well,
that and how to strip your rifle down and a few other.
That was another different test for the, but it was just a Marine Corps history test. Well,
right.
I took the test and everything, and that was the first summer I was there. And next thing I know, the few days later, the captain who was just back from Vietnam, brand new captain that was our platoon commander for
right, for your company there or your platoon,
yeah. Anyway, he says, candidate Hinton front and center, and I'm thinking, oh man, what am I fucking trouble, what the hell is going on
candidate
here, so I go out front. Congratulations there, candidate Hinton. You scored 100% on the Marine Corps history test. They've never had a candidate do that before in the history that we know of. And well, I was a history major in college, so when they got into them Marine Corps history classes, I was really interested in all that. I learned all that stuff I had to. So I did that, and I made it through the 2 summers.
Well, what did you say? You were about to say, and we got sidetracked a little bit. What the name of the game is? Yeah, I think you mentioned it yesterday. What's the point of OCS?
Well, determine people that they're going to quit.
Yeah,
that's
I want you to quit.
Yeah, and they make it easy to quit. Sign the DOR slip and go home, candidate.
Yeah,
I don't know how many times I heard him say that right to your face.
Little Creek, that's it. Yeah.
And I'll tell you one of the funniest stories I have, just compared to my experience with the Army.
Okay.
It's the first summer we're out at Camp Upshur, and they issued us M14 rifles.
Okay.
And I'm looking, with the Army was really big on securing them weapons. Now, remember, this was 1966.
Okay.
And I'm looking all around the barracks. I don't see any rifle racks anywhere or anything. Wow, what the heck's going on here? So I get my nerve up, and I remember it was a staff sergeant from Puerto Rico that was our senior sergeant instructor there.
Platoon sergeant instructor, yeah.
Yeah. I go up to him, sir, where do we secure the rifles for the weapons for the night? Damn it, candidate, Marine Corps issued you that weapon. You better make sure you don't lose it. You understand? You mean I can just lock it in my wall lock? Well, that might be a good idea. Or you can sleep with it. We don't care. I'm going, okay. Yes, sir. So that was my introduction to the weapons. I don't know how they did it later on, but
there you go. I seem to recall locking them to the rack at night, but
did they put racks in the barracks?
Yeah.
To our bunk, to our sleeping rack.
We had a rifle rack that went right down the center of the squad bay.
Interesting. I don't recall that.
Now, the second summer I was there, up, they actually had a rifle rack in the barracks that we could put them in. But the first summer out at Camp Upshur, it was none of that.
Right.
I mean, it was like primitive, I mean. So anyway, I did that, did my, was commit, and then the other thing is, I wasn't supposed to graduate from college until June of 1968. Okay.
All right.
So, but and when I attack college the same way I do anything in life. If there's this job that needs to be done, I try to find out what the toughest part of it is and knock that out first, and then deal with whatever else you have to do with it.
Sure.
So anyway, so when I got into college, I made a list of everything I needed to graduate, and took all those classes and everything, so that I had it all figured out. Come the end of my senior year, I was only going to need 9 hours to graduate, and it could be any 9 hours of electives. I could take 3 basket weaving classes or something, to make it easy on myself. So
Right.
that was my big plan, everything. Okay. So just to be on the safe side, I'm about halfway through. Plus I'd made the dean's list, so they let me take extra classes. Instead of taking only 5 classes, I got to take 6 classes and stuff.
Okay.
So I go into the registrar because I want to double check that nothing slipped through the cracks.
Right. You don't want to get to the end and need 1 more hour.
Yeah. So anyway, I look down, I go in the registrar's office, and he looks at my transcript. Now, back then, it wasn't on a computer or anything, this is 1968, and he's looking at it, and he says, well, heck, Al, he says, if you pass all your classes this semester, you'll have 3 more hours than you need to graduate. And I said, I can't be right.
Okay.
I says, I still need 3 more hours. And he says, no, he says, you remember them 2 summers you went to Quantico, the Marine Officer Program?
Oh,
I said,
there you
well,
go.
yeah.
College
He
credit.
says, the college gave you 6 hours of credit for each summer, total of 12 hours there. I said, 12 hours of what? He said, well, it gave you 12 hours of military science. And my answer to him at that point, I said, well, yeah, it was military, but there sure wasn't much science involved in it.
That may be a show title.
Yeah, so, I contact my OSO up at St. Louis, Captain Ogle, and tell him, hey, if I pass all my classes, I'll finish college in January, because back then you finish, you went on Christmas break and you still had a couple of weeks in January.
Sure.
And then whatever. And they said, well, yes, as soon as you get a letter from the college saying you've met the degree requirements with the official college stamp in it, we'll commission you. So I ended up being commissioned on the 23rd of February, 1968. And going, they told me, hey, go to Quantico. I went and bought me a new Camaro, 68 Camaro, and
All right.
got my commission. And they told me to report I accepted a regular commission because I finished in the top 10% of the. In fact, I brought this in to show you. Hold on a minute here. I'll look this up. You see this right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the trophy for being the #1 officer candidate in my class in PLCs. I don't know. Can you
Get the hell out of here. Well, of course, I've never seen anything like that because I was nowhere near enough.
Can you see it right there?
Well, I can see. I can't read it,
That's
but
fantastic.
I can definitely see it.
Yeah, for notable leadership exhibited by a student of this institution during the Junior Chorus Platoon Leaders Class, United States Marine Corps, Allyn Hinton, Southeast Missouri State College.
Well done, sir. Wow.
Nice.
So anyway, but that's a nice trophy. That's the one, and the one thing I want to do here, I know I'm not going to live forever because I'm 83 years old. I'd like to donate it to some place where where, they would be appreciated later on down the road. So
Oh,
you can
well,
help
there's
me
Marine
out
Corps
with-
Museum in Quantico. I just drove by it the other day.
I bet they'd
I've
like
been
to have
there,
that.
but I was, so you
Yeah.
think they might,
I think they'd love to have it. I could be wrong, but I believe they would. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I'll try to make it up to Quantico one of these days and drop it off there to them.
Oh, that's right. You're not that far from there in South Carolina.
No.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
All
in
right.
fact, and I'll tell you a funny story. You ever heard of Richard B. Myers?
Maybe.
I don't think so.
Not sure.
But go
Richard
ahead.
B. Myers
Yeah.
was my best buddy in junior high in Shawnee, Kansas, when we were living there in the Kansas City area after my
Okay.
dad got out of the Coast Guard.
Sticks is looking it up now.
Richard B. Myers, but he spells it Myers.
Okay.
Him and I were junior high school buddies in Shawnee, Kansas in the late 50s, 1955, 56, 57, in that area.
Sure.
He went through he went to Kansas State University and went through Air Force ROTC at Kansas State. And he put in 40 years on active duty, and he was commissioned in 65, had gotten a degree in engineering.
Chairman of the Joint Chiefs.
Yep. Chairman
Yeah,
of the Joint
okay.
Chiefs of Staff from
All right.
Shit.
Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff from hold it just
Well
a
done,
minute.
Sticks. Well done.
That's the second guest that we've had on the show who's a friend of a chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We had
In
another
fact-
one who's a friend with Raising Cane.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Let's take a look here. There's a picture. I was invited to his installation as chairman in October of 2001. Now, at that time, I'd been in the Army Reserve, but that's General Myers and me, and joking about being back in Hawker Grove Junior High in Shawnee, Kansas, in 1955 and 1955 to 1957, and then Shawnee Mission High School until 1960. But I didn't get to make it. They still let me be part of the Shawnee Mission High School graduating class for reunions and stuff. But in 1957, right after I finished ninth grade, my dad took a job at McDonnell Aircraft in St. Louis. So I ended up going to St. Louis
Okay.
through my last 3 years of high school.
Well, fantastic. So we've got you through college now, and you're off to flight school. Where did you go to primary, and what airplane did you fly in primary?
Well, believe it or not, I'm in basic school because I got a regular commission,
Okay.
which meant I had to go to basic school. I wasn't one of those guys who got their commission and went directly to flight school. So anyway, they came down from Headquarters Marine Corps. Now, you went through Pensacola, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I never understood why it took so long to get pilots out of Pensacola till I went down there later in my career.
Because we all have to sit around in the pool for 6 months at a time.
Yeah, that's what I could never
Wait.
figure out. So anyway, Headquarters Marine Corps comes down, and I was in K Company, class 968, there at basic school. And everybody, all of us that had aviation guarantees, they kept us there in the classroom after one of the things. There was about 50 of us in my basic school class. And guy from Headquarters Marine Corps kind of, hey, look, we are so hurting for helicopter pilots. We got this deal with the Army that can get you through flight school and get your wings in 34 weeks. And I says, now, any of you want to volunteer to go to Army flight school, we'll, you don't have to, but, it takes about a year and a half to get you through Pensacola and everything. And so I said, I put my name down. So next thing I know, there were 18 of us in Kilo Company. 10 of them went down on one set of orders in the middle of August, right after we graduated from TBS. And then I was in the second group of 8 that went down and I remember I started flight school on the 1st of September, 1968, which just happened to have been my 27th birthday. Yeah.
Nice.
But,
okay.
Later.
Were you right on the edge of being too old to start flight school? Was that a thing back then?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, but so anyway, and when I came back from Vietnam, I spent about a year and a half at. Now, the one thing they did promise us, well, if you go through Army flight school, you have your wings in 34 weeks and everything. And any of you that are staying in, we promise you a fixed wing transition. So, I got the fixed wing transition in I went down and.
Hold on. We're skipping an entire Vietnam tour in helicopters here.
Yeah, but the other thing I want to ask real quickly is, did you get gold naval aviator wings out of Army flight school?
Yeah.
Okay. Very
Yeah,
cool. All right.
Yeah, I got a diploma from Army flight school. I got a diploma from the Marine Corps as a second lieutenant.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
And now, how could the Army train helicopter pilots in 34 weeks?
Well, how's that possible?
They probably flew you every day.
Yeah, twice a day, every day type thing.
Yeah. Fort Walters and Hunter Army Airfield. Each instructor had 2 students, and the instructor's mission was to get you qualified to pass a check ride at the end of the 8-week period.
Get you out the door.
Yeah. And that instructor, I remember he was my first instructor was a kid by the last name of Carr from New Jersey, who was a warrant officer pilot, had to have been like about 19 years old.
Okay.
I was 27, at the time. And he was just back from Vietnam, and he was he was a W3 or W2 or W3 at the time. So
sounds like a lot like our guest from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a teenager flying a helicopter as a warrant officer in Vietnam.
Yeah. Well, anyway, and his job, and then at the end of each 8-week period, you took a check ride with a check pilot. It was like taking your driver's license. He just hopped in there, didn't say a word to you. He expected you to go out. They briefed you ahead of time. You go out, take off, make the radio calls, do everything you got to do. And he just sits over there and determines whether you're up to standards or not.
No kidding.
No kidding.
That's awesome.
Huh?
All right.
And then you flew the TH-55, that little training helicopter, and then went to Hunter Army Airfield, and we flew H-13s for basic instruments, and then we went right into Hueys for advanced instruments, and then the last 8 weeks was a tactical thing where you actually went out in the field and operated like you would in a combat zone from stage fields out there at Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah, Georgia, and we'd have troops from Fort Stewart. We'd haul them around and insert them and everything, basically being a transport pilot. And then when I
go ahead. I'm sorry.
When I finished that, my orders were to Camp Pendleton, to HML 267, to the Huey Squadron there, Huey Gun Squadron, where I spent my claim to fame there was I arrived there and coached the squadron football team to the base championship with a 14-0 season in 1968, and then I shipped out for Vietnam in 1969, because I shipped out for Vietnam in December.
Okay. Right. You said the day after Christmas on the pre-show chat, right?
Well,
Merry Christmas. See ya.
That was the date that I left Norton Air Force Base for Okinawa, and then I spent a few days at Camp Hague in Okinawa, and then flew down to Da Nang and was assigned HML 167 there.
Okay. I'd like to back up briefly to flight school and ask, had you done any flying at all before you got to flight school?
Never been up in an airplane before in my life.
Okay.
I've been up in airplanes to jump out of them when I was a paratrooper.
Oh, there's that, right? Yeah.
Was that fairly common for the guys in your class to just have zero flight experience and show up to flight school, or were there guys that had flight experience?
I don't know any of them had any flying experience.
Wow.
Okay.
That was a subject that never even came up.
Right. There you go. All right. And then what about hovering? What about learning to hover? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was it easy for you, or did you were like, holy shit, this thing's trying to come apart the whole time I'm flying it?
It took me about I'd say
like a Styx is in the background.
Well,
oh, here we go.
I'm trying to think. I was the third guy in my class at Army Flight School to get signed off to solo, but I remember by the second day of going out and practicing in that little TH-55. You know what a TH-55 looks like?
That's the MASH helicopter, right? MASH medevac.
It was a used 300 or something they called it.
Yeah.
The H-13 was the kind that you see in MASH.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was a little 4-cylinder reciprocating engine that was right underneath your seats there in the thing, and it could only take two people. It was the civilian version of it. You might see local TV stations have them fly the Sevilla, used 300 or used 500. That was our primary flight trains, and then the second half of it, most of that was actually flying in actual Hueys.
Okay.
Okay. Well, at least you're flying in the airframe that you're getting ready to go to war in, so you're getting some op experience in that. There it is.
That's it right there.
Yep. Okay.
Well done, Styx.
That was what they used for the primary flight training at Fort Walters, Texas.
Okay. All right. So you find yourself in Vietnam. How
HML 167. How many guys in your squadron?
Huh?
How many pilots in your squadron in Vietnam in HML 167?
Oh gosh, probably
267. You said.
Oh, 267.
267 was at Pendleton. 167 was in Vietnam.
Oh, dang.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, you got it right, Fig. My apologies.
Anyway, 167. I don't know. We put together a cruise book with the pictures, all the pilots in it. I guess I could go get it and
that's okay. That's all right.
We're just trying to get a feel for how many.
I'd say probably we had 35 aircraft.
Oh shit!
That's a lot.
We had every Huey in Vietnam was in HML 167 when I got there. But of course, you got to remember when I got there, was when they turned the northern part of I Corps over. They pulled the third Marine Division, went back to Okinawa, and they gave that whole Phu area up to the DMZ. They handed that off to the Army's 101st Air Cavalry unit. Okay. That became their area of operation.
Okay.
But if you're familiar with Vietnam, most of my flight time in Vietnam was very rarely did I go north of the Hai Van Pass, but a few times I went up to Phu Bai or Hue for something. But from there down to Chu Lai was the area that the Marines still had. In fact, the last Marine 167 was the last Marine helicopter squadron to pull out of Vietnam in May of 71.
Okay. Well,
but
all right. Do you remember the first time getting shot at? And let me ask this: I'm assuming you were not an aircraft commander when you got there. You're riding co-pilot for the first several.
Made aircraft. I got there in like tail end of December, say January, and I got signed off to be a plane commander by around the middle of March.
Nice.
I mean, by We weren't
Yeah.
getting a lot of we didn't have enough pilots to put 2 pilots in each one of our aircraft if we could get them all up for flying on one day. But
Wow.
it was an Echo model. And the gunship ones, we had a couple M60s on each side, and then either a 7 or 19 shot rocket pod on each side, and then the crew chief manned one door gun on one side, and then we always had kids from the squadron that wanted to volunteer to be door gunners. We'd take them down to the beach and let them shoot the M6. Yeah, there you go. Now it's HMLA 167.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because the Cobras.
Yeah. Huh? Here's the old. Can you see that's the?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if you push it up nice and close to the screen there.
That's the OG patch right there.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Dragon. Fire breathing dragon.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I think they just took that, for whatever, I don't know.
Well,
To be honest with you, in my entire year in Vietnam, I only recall 3 times that I was actually shot at.
Okay. Did you take it personally?
No.
Okay.
3 times. 3 times I'd be flying along and hear pop, 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 like that or something. Oh, what the hell was that? And I remember,
Gotcha.
back on now I was probably shot at a lot more than that, but
Just never heard it.
most of our missions were, they had a medevac package that consisted of 2 46s and 2 gunships, either Huey gunships or Cobra gunships. And we put one of those packages down at Baldy, which is where the 7th Marines operated out of. And then we had another package we kept up at Marble Mountain to, I'll tell you what happened one time. I was flying, and then we'd send the CNC missions. Now, and that CNC mission, we'd send a Huey Slick down to support the Korean Marines, whose area of operations was just south of where the Marines operated out of, right? And we'd do just dash and trash things, haul people. If they had to move people from one of their bases to another, we'd throw them in the back of the Huey and fly them over there and everything. And then the big thing, every night before you got ready to leave them, they'd say, we got this is the last mission we got for you for the day. And you're talking to some Korean Marine who spoke English. Remember, he was a gunny sergeant in the Korean Marines that operated the helipad down there that they had.
Okay.
He said, your last mission was to go to LZ3. Okay.
Right.
And they'd be some Korean Marine officers that come hop in the back of the Huey, and you'd fly them up the beach to LZ3, which was right up there in Da Nang. It was a compound, really nice, kind of like in-country R&R thing.
Okay.
But essentially, it was a house of prostitution. That because I remember one time getting this mission.
Got to get your R&R.
I had this mission one time when I was supporting the Korean Marines to go up to Da Nang and actually pick up about 7 of their girls and take them over to LZ3, who they'd flown down from Korea. Now, of course, see, this was only a benefit for the officers in the Korean Marine Corps. Okay. But, you went to LZ3. Now, my one great story about LZ3 is I got, about 4 or 5 Korean Marine officers in the back, majors, captains, lieutenant colonels in the Korean Marine Corps. And I'm going up the beach from the Korean position when I hear Lemon 1-4 checking in with the desk. Now, Lemon, all the Korean outfits had their call signs were all like lemon, orange, grape,
Okay.
and 1-4 would have been the
We were
Marine
lime.
advisor to that particular unit.
Wait, hold on. Would you say that one more time?
Sorry, I walked on you.
The 1-4 would be what?
If the guy came up on the radio and he called his call sign as 1-4, that was the advisor to the Korean Marine Unit.
Okay, so
Okay.
he's a.
So
he's
if
a
it was
U-
lemon 1-4 or orange 1-4, that
All
would
right.
generally be a Marine captain
Yeah,
or something that was out there with the Korean Marines.
liaison guy, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So he's calling back up to the desk. Now I'm just taking off and I'm heading up the beach toward Da Nang. And he says, we have 3 emergency medevacs, which means if you don't get these guys to the hospital, they're going to die.
Right.
Okay. Now, the procedure would be you'd call in from the field up to the direct air support center, and then they'd call over to Marble Mountain, and Marble Mountain would launch the medevac package. So I interrupted his conversation on the FM radio, and I said, Lemon 1-4, this is comprised 60. You see a Huey flying up the coastline right now? And he says, yeah. He says, I'm down here at your 9 o'clock. I can see you clearly. I said, look, I'll run that medevac for you. Just, you got a clear area? You taking any fire? He says, no, I got a good landing area for you, but we got to get these guys to the hospital or they're going to die. And so anyway, I said, okay, that's it. So, I said, get a smoke out where you want me to land. Pop a smoke. I got the smoke. I've come down there. Now, I only had a crew chief with me. I was flying as a single pilot I had a big kid from Philadelphia. Daly was his name. Been a college football player. And he was big. He was the crew chief there and everything. And so I come landing in there and we see him, man. One of these guys has got both of his legs blown off already with tourniquets around the stumps. One of them's only missing one leg, and the other guy looks like he's got about 1,000 holes in him from shrapnel.
Oh, shit.
But they're all alive and everything. And these damn Koreans in the back, these officers, and I can't imagine an American military guy doing this. We have no time. We go LZ3. We go LZ3. Send other,
no.
And I'm going like, Daly, get them son of a bitches off there, and tell them I'll be back to pick them up. But anyway, so
they had their priorities straight.
Well, between
Not so much.
between the Marine Advisory group and Daly unhooking from the co-pilot seat and going back there, literally picking these officers up and chunking them out, plus the Marine liaison and a couple of his enlisted people, they're pulling these guys off, and everything, and they keep hollering and screaming and everything. I mean, I can't imagine if you were a colonel in the American forces.
Oh, dear God, no.
Yeah, I mean, you saw what that was going on. Yeah, you'd hop off the,
sure,
aircraft right then and there. So anyway, we get them in the back and everything, and man, pull pitch, and I ain't taking them up to the damn Army hospital up there at China Beach, because the USS Sanctuary is sitting there, and that was a naval hospital ship.
Okay.
There right in the harbor of Da Nang. And so I took them out to the Navy hospital ship where I know they were going to get the best medical attention available.
Very nice.
Outstanding.
I mean, so somewhere maybe in Korea, those guys are still alive and everything. But, I don't know.
Oh,
but anyway,
fantastic.
then as I'm flying back down, I tell Daly, I'm on the intercom. I says, I got a mind to leave them bastards in the field with their troops for the night. But
they'll get some cuddling from their troops tonight.
Yeah, and so okay. So I went back and picked them up, and they were all smiles and everything. So
there you go.
And now we go to LZ3.
Yeah.
I
Not so much.
LZ3. They were probably about 30 minutes late getting there, but
well done, sir.
Right. Right.
Well,
well, I'd actually like to take just a minute to thank our sponsor, Masterclass. Because if you're already spending time on your phone, iPad, or laptop, here's a way to actually get something out of it. I've been using Masterclass, and I started with Ninja's classes on streaming. Yeah, Ninja. That really is his name. Anyway, his sessions are about building your setup, connecting with your audience and just being yourself on camera. It's been genuinely eye-opening for me. And as a podcaster, I'm always looking for ways to make our So There I Was live streams more engaging, more real. We record at all different times because our guest schedules drive that, but we always announce our recording sessions in advance so folks can jump in and be part of it. And Ninja's approach to streaming really hit home. Develop your streaming persona without being fake. Keep it authentic and let your community shape the experience with you. That's exactly the vibe we want. Real people, real stories, and real connection. With Masterclass, you can learn from the best to become your best. Unlimited access to 200 plus classes, all in short, bite-sized lessons that fit even the busiest schedule. In our case, it's not about becoming pro gamers like Ninja. It's about sharing stories better and growing the community around them. From Ninja, I've been learning practical stuff I can actually use, like how to use chat to drive engagement and real-time feedback, how to set up lighting and cameras on any budget, how to moderate with personality, and how to share your stream with the community so people actually find you. That last part's huge for So There I Was, because growing a podcast or a stream isn't just about posting content, it's about building connection. And with Masterclass, I can learn from people like Ninja, Amy Poehler, and Michael Lewis, each one offering something I can apply immediately. And here's another cool thing about Masterclass. I can watch the lessons in the app or download them to watch offline while I'm traveling. It fits right into my lifestyle, and it's fun. 3/4 of the members say they feel inspired every time they watch. And I totally get that. I'm using what I learned to tighten our live streams, strengthen our community, and make storytelling more fun. And with a 30-day money-back guarantee, there's nothing to lose. No risk in trying it. So, if you've been thinking about leveling up your skills, whether it's storytelling, business leadership, or streaming, this is the place to do it. Right now, our listeners get an additional 15% off any annual membership at masterclass.com/SoThereIWas. That's 15% off at masterclass.com/SoThereIWas. With Masterclass, you can learn from the best to become your best. Okay, well, fantastic. I almost didn't make it back in time, but yet here I am, in spite of my best efforts. One of the things I'd like to find out from you, Allyn, is something your son wrote to us about. You have knowledge of how the Purple Foxes came to be the Purple Foxes, and that was HMLA or HMM 364.
That's correct. Good buddy of mine from basic school was a pilot with them, Henry Hashino. He had a very interesting story. He was from Washington State, and he became a Marine Corps pilot, 46 pilot, flew with the Purple Foxes, but he was actually born in one of those internment camps during World War II when they interned the Japanese American citizens, because they were afraid that they'd were really more loyal to Japan than they were to the United States. But anyway, the Purple Foxes, the squadron pilots, had lockers where they kept their flight gear over in the hangars and stuff. And apparently a lot of the Purple Foxes, the squadron commander had this old fox pelt, you remember? Used to be very fashionable for women to wear.
Right, the fox stole.
Yeah. Anyway, but somebody had dyed the fur on it purple. And the squadron commander had that. And anytime he would go through the hangar and one of the pilots had left their locker with their flight gear unlocked with no lock on it or anything, he'd open the locker up and take their flight gear out and leave the Purple Fox thing in the locker for him. So if you came back, or if he found you there was no lock on your locker, he found you you found their purple fox in your locker there, and that meant you had to go see the CO and
get your flight gear back.
Get your flight gear back and probably be admonished
Oh, yeah.
severely
Oh,
for
yeah.
whatever it was for not putting a lock on your damn flight gear there, lieutenant or captain, whatever.
Right.
So they kind of, you know how you don't ever want to insult a Marine. You know why?
You like your teeth?
I could give you several reasons, but I'm kind of curious to hear yours.
Yeah, you know why they call us jarheads and stuff like that. You know, because our heads are empty as a as an empty jar or something like that. You know, because a damn Marine, if you insult him, he's just going to wear your insult as a badge of honor.
There's that.
You know, because you know, in 250 years, anytime somebody had said something about the Marine Corps to me, I'd say my answer. Anytime somebody said something negative about the Marine Corps, I'd say, you know, tell me when the Marine Corps ever let this country down. Tell me when it happened.
Right on.
It ain't going to happen. And I'll guarantee you one thing: as long as there's a U.S. Marine Corps, there will be a United States. Now they've had plenty of people try to eliminate us, but you know, never like they. Who was it when they raised the flag on Iwo Jima? Somebody said, you know, that guarantees a Marine Corps for the next 500 years, which is a good thing.
Absolutely. Oh, fantastic.
So, you know,
didn't want the purple fox to visit your locker.
No. Yeah, you didn't want the purple fox to visit your locker. So, you know, they came up with they did have a different squadron patch before that. I mean, I've got some of the older, there were older patches that didn't have a purple fox on them. And they didn't call themselves a purple fox until that happened.
Sure. All right. Well, after Vietnam, you wound up getting that fixed wing transition they promised you, and you and Fig are fellow Meridians, it turns out, huh?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and one last thing, you know, my biggest fear in Vietnam, and thank God it never happened, but, you know, I mean, I flew a lot of missions where I had to lay down close air support to troops on the ground, you know, like we'd get calls to go out and support a company that was in contact with, and, you know, and then thank God it never happened, but my biggest fear was always that I'd accidentally shoot some of our own people. So, you know, determining where the bad guys were from where the good guys were. And as long as there was at least 100 yards between them, I felt fairly confident that I could lay down rocket and machine gun fire without, you know, picking off any of our own people. But, you know, that has happened more times than you know. Well, we've had plenty of examples of it.
Not to you, and that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I came back. Was assigned to the air control group for about a year and a half. And then they kept bugging my monitor, and I want my fixed wing transition I was promised and everything. So it was 72. They sent me to Meridian, Mississippi, where I flew the T2s. Basically, I got to go through the fixed wing transition. Yeah, I got to skip primary flight. I just went right directly into basic and advanced with VT9 and VT7 at Meridian, Mississippi.
Yeah, rock on. We were in the same squadron now, just 30 years apart.
Yeah, well,
no, not 30 years.
No, 20. 20 and change. 22.
No, yeah. 80.
I was there in
18 years apart.
72 and 73.
Nice.
And
I was there in 88.
And then you know what? Because I remember the first time we went out to fly I had the Navy lieutenant instructor with VT9, the old T2 down there.
And you're a Marine captain at this point?
Yeah. Okay. And
crusty old Vietnam veteran Marine captain. I bet you were a peach to fly with.
Well, no. I mean, you know, we're taxiing out, and he says to me, you think you can take this you think you can take this off? I said, well, sure. I've been through all the ground training. I know what the limitations are. I know what the
Sure.
procedures are and everything. I got the checklist.
You're gonna push the throttles up. It's gonna go fast. You're gonna pull back. It's gonna fucking fly. How hard is that?
Right. I mean,
trees get smaller, trees get bigger.
Yeah.
Works every time.
Same shit every day. What was he getting at?
Well, I take off and we go out, and he says, went through all the basic maneuvers and stuff with him, and did them all, and then come back. He says, well, can you land it? I says, well, hell yeah, I can land it. What's the problem? Anyway, so and we land, and I went through the syllabus. It didn't take me long to do that, but
Did you go to the boat?
First instructor I flew with said, he made this comment to me. He says, you seem to have a lot of air sense.
Yeah,
I
weird.
said, yeah, that was
got a combat tour in Vietnam,
I've
dude.
heard that term before,
Weird.
I said,
You think?
I said, I'll tell you. And I remember once we were on the ground and it was over, I said, I'll tell you what. I said, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you a little secret that they're not going to tell you. He said, what's that? I says, if you can fly a UE helicopter, you can fly anything.
That's probably
A lot of truth to that.
right?
Yeah.
Well, because a lot of fixed wing flying, you get the aircraft trimmed up and everything, and turn the autopilot on or whatever, and all you're doing is standing by in case there's an emergency. And then once you get it airborne and climbed altitude and everything, so I did that. And then headquarters Marine Corps came down with a thing, hey, we need C-130 pilots, which was a bad career move in my case, because I volunteered for that, but then in 1980 I got passed over like most of the C-130 pilots in the Marine Corps, because you got to remember, the attitude of the people that run the Marine Corps is towards C-130 pilots. You know what that is, don't you?
No, sir.
Well, and you got to remember, one of my buddies from college, James Conway, went on to become the commandant of the Marine Corps.
Okay.
2001 to 2005. I remember in college he was on the baseball team. But anyway, they, to the generals and high-ranking officers in the Marine Corps, C-130 pilots are American Airlines trainees. We can get more of them if we ever need them. Just put out a message saying we want, and guys will jump on that in a heartbeat. Yeah, man. C-130, I mean, it was attractive to me because, God, man, you get to fly all over the world and do all kinds of stuff. Hey, great. So that's why I jumped on the 130 thing, and then I did a tour in Okinawa with 152.
Hold on. I got questions about Meridian.
Yeah.
Did you go to the boat, the aircraft carrier in
Yeah.
T2s and A4s?
Yeah.
Which boat? Lexington?
I went to the I carried qual on the Lexington out of Pensacola in the T2, and I carried qual in the TA4 out of the Franklin D. Roosevelt operating out of Mayport.
All right.
Because Lexington, when I was ready to carrier qual in
T2s.
when I was ready to carrier qual in the A4s, Lexington had gone into dry dock for some maintenance thing, so they were carrier qual. We'd put together when it came time to get some guys to carrier qual. They sent up, they put a group of us, about 4 or 5 aircraft, and send us over to Cecil Field, and we'd fly out of Cecil Field in America.
Got it.
And in fact, I had to make an emergency landing when I was carrier qualing in the TA4 because I had a fuel problem after I'd bingoed off of the ship to head back to Cecil Field. My fuel gauge went to 0, and I was still about 150 miles off the coast of Florida.
Yeah, that's fun.
And I'm wondering, is this a gauge problem, or do I really have down to,
Yeah.
what's going on.
Did you
So I
were you
landed.
streaming fuel or what? Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, I
Had
mean that's
plenty
what
of
you have to
fuel, sir.
wonder. Am I streaming fuel? Why am I at zero?
Did you ever fly the TA4?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I got
Okay.
about 1,000 hours in that airplane.
Okay, you know that you got the two wing tanks.
You got two drop
And then you got-
tanks, and then you got an internal tank, but you only got one fuel gauge.
Yeah.
So
and
you had
that's
to
on
push
the
a button. You had to push a button to read the fuel in the tank and the external tanks.
Well, I didn't ever remember that part. I remember when you got down below 550 pounds in the fuse tank, the low fuel light came on.
Yeah, and that particular fuel gauge was plus or minus 400 pounds.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing about it is I'm bingoing off the Roosevelt, and I get a low fuel light. Now I know that I had just refueled on board the ship before I got my last cat shot.
Yep.
So I'm thinking,
Am
well,
I
it turned
streaming
out-
fuel? Where is the fuel gone?
Yep.
Right?
well, yeah, but the aircraft seemed to be flying perfectly well.
Mhm.
So I landed it at Mayport, and maintenance people came over, and it was just a gauge problem. It was a
Sure.
instrument problem. It wasn't it was still working.
Yeah.
Things were working right and everything. But
Otherwise, you'd have been a swimmer.
now the carrier qual, people ask me about that all the time. And I don't want to mean to sound cavalier, but they say, "Hey, land on an aircraft carrier, that's really tough. That's oh man, I don't know how you guys do that." And I said, land on an aircraft carrier is one of the easiest things I've ever done in aviation. And they said, "Well, how can that be?" I said,
It was daytime and the seas weren't rough. That's why.
right. And when you're coming aboard the carrier, you're not looking at anything other than angle of attack,
Meatball lineup.
and
Angle of attack.
meatball lineup, angle of attack, and you're focused entirely on that. You're not looking at your airspeed. You're not looking at anything. You got all that stuff right there, and you're looking at it to ship. You just, if your angle of attack goes a little high, you tweak the nose down a little bit. If it's a little low, you bring the nose back up a little bit to keep the angle of attack gauge in the donut there. You keep the mirror, use your throttle to adjust your rate of descent down to the deck. And hey, boom, as soon as those wheels hit the deck, full power, speed brakes in. If you catch a wire, they're going to stop you. If you don't catch a wire, I had one, and all the time I've landed on the carrier, I had one bolter one time. I got a 4-wire skip. But, you take it around and get back into pattern and
do it again. Well, the Dos Gringos says what could be easier, right? So that was one of their songs.
4 wires.
Yeah.
You don't have to flare. There's never a crosswind. What's the big damn deal?
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I mean, usually if you make if you do a perfect landing to the carrier, you catch a 3-wire.
Yeah. Okay, underline.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, underline
That's
is your
right.
grade.
Yeah.
That's right.
A couple of times, I had an LSO get on me because I kept catching a 2-wire. But, said you're coming in a little low, catch a 2-wire. And then I had a 4-wire hook skip one time.
Yeah.
When I over-adjusted, I guess.
So
There you
let me get this straight. You volunteered to go to C-130s out of Meridian, or were you voluntold?
No, I called the monitor because, hell, I was just looking at building flight time, going to see the world, man.
Okay.
And I did. I ended up in but they didn't tell you the part about getting passed over for major, which, believe it or not, looking back on it, was the best thing that ever happened to me.
That's awesome.
You know why? Because what happens to you when you make major in the Marine Corps?
Well, you become a department head, and
You don't fly.
You don't fly a whole lot.
Or you get sent to some staff job somewhere,
Great.
pushing a bunch of paper around. And you might get back into the cockpit if you make lieutenant colonel and happen to become a squadron commander. even though I had a squadron commander in Vietnam when I first got there. You ever heard of Doug McCoy?
Don't think so.
No.
Doug McCoy became we had a terrible morale problem in 167 in Vietnam because you ever heard of Jack Weber?
Not
no,
until
I'm
just
thinking
now.
Jack Webb, but no, Jack Weber,
No,
no.
this is Jack Weber was his name. Well, he was a CO of 167 in Vietnam when I got there. And the morale among we lost an aircraft in Vietnam that went down. We used to fly this mission over into Laos every day. And Bob Castle was flying, and they went down in Laos. The aircraft was on fire and, hit the trees and all this other stuff. And they refused to put anybody on the ground over there to try to get the bodies out because it was over in Laos. Because we were flying escort for these long-range recon people that they were putting on the Ho Chi Minh Trail to do whatever they were doing, call in B-52 strikes on the Ho Chi Minh Trail or something. So anyway, well, they refused, and I mean, I almost saw a mutiny among the pilots there. We had an all-officer meeting and damn it, what's this thing? Marines don't leave their dead and wounded on the battlefield. What, we got to go over there and get them out. Get them out. Well, we're not going to risk losing another aircraft and casualties and everything. Nobody could have survived that crash. Well, Larry Parsons, the co-pilot, was picked up 19 days later in Laos by an Army chopper flying out of Phu-Bai. And he had somehow survived the crash.
Oh.
Was he the only one?
So they did put a Marine recon team over there, and they recovered Bob Castle's body. But to this day, Staff Sergeant Underwood and Corporal Gonzalez, the crew chief and door gunner in that aircraft, are unaccounted for. And they found a U.S. .38 revolver at the crash site in perfectly good condition, loaded, not been fired. And somehow, it was just laying there on the ground at the crash site. And from that, they deduced that the bad guys hadn't been to the crash site. Because if the North
No
Vietnamese
self-respecting
went
soldier to
down-
leave a weapon behind.
Yeah. I mean, if they were just laying there on the ground where you could see it, they'd pick that up in a heartbeat, But, Meridian, I carrier quad there and then went to the 130s because I wanted to see more of the world and get a lot of flight time, which both of those things happened, but got passed over for major in 1980 and got out and got a job teaching school and got in the Army gave me a direct appointment, W-2. There was an Army Reserve Aviation unit there in the St. Louis area where I was teaching high school at Parkway South High School.
All right.
And I got on with them as a warm-up. I remember going over to tell them, hey, I'd like to fly with you guys and stuff. And they said, well, I don't know. We've never taken anybody from the other branch of service into the unit. Almost all, in fact, when I joined the unit, about half the pilots in the unit were Vietnam vets, but they'd all been Army helo drivers in Vietnam, right?
Yeah.
And so I said to the CO, Major Harriman, I said, well, would a diploma from Army Flight School mean anything to you guys as far as credentials? And he said, well, yeah, you went to Army Flight School? And I said, yeah. Well, when did that happen? I said, well, from 1971 to 73, the Army was training 300 Marines a year. So I put together a packet, with a copy of my diploma from Army Flight School. It took about 3 months for it to go up the chain of command and come back down. Next thing I know, I get a call from it was the 281st Aviation Company when I joined them. They had H model Hueys. I get a call from them to come on over and get sworn in get your direct appointment to W-2. 6 years later, they promoted me to W-3. 6 years after that to W-4, and then 9 years after that, when I turned 60, they retired me. But having that diploma from Army Flight School, I guess, kind of said right
That's
there.
outstanding.
Second Lieutenant, U.S. Marine Corps, but it was from Army Flight School.
And then you got to transition to Blackhawks at some point.
Yeah, in '87, we were the first reserve unit to trade our Blackhawk or our H model Hueys in for Blackhawks. Now, Blackhawk's the nicest helicopter I've ever flown, man. God.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay.
Great aircraft.
So tell us about that a little bit. What was that airplane like? What was the transition to it like? And then
well, you went down to Fort Rucker and went through the 6-week transition. We were the first reserve unit. We were the 281st Aviation Company based at Scott Air Force Base in Illinois to get Black Hawk helicopters.
Okay.
And I was each reserve unit had a certain number of active duty people that were there full time.
Okay.
And one of the pilots that was there full time was a guy by the name of Jim Prince, who they sent him down to go to the transition, and the school year had just ended, and I was home on summer vacation, and the phone rings, and it's Bob Jones over there at the fight facility. And he says, "Hey, Al, is school out?" And I says, "Yeah." He says, "Can you get down to Rucker by tomorrow?" And I said, "Well, yeah, why?" He said, "Well, Jim Prince went down there and they kicked him out because he was overweight when they put him on the scales to check him in." And he says, "We're going to lose our slot there unless I get somebody down there that, isn't going to get sent home." Okay, so, man, I backed and went down there. I was the first regular pilot and, reserve pilot in the unit to transition to the Black Hawk. And when I got back, this is going to be hard to believe. I took a check ride with Bob Jones, who I'd been flying with there in the unit for ages. He was a great guy, a great pilot and everything. Anyway, so I took my Black Hawk check ride with Bob Jones. When we land, he signs me off as plane commander.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Well, you had a couple hours in rotary wing aircraft, so good to go.
And then flew Blackhawks in Desert Storm.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you about that. There was, I think, your experience there. I'm not sure that anyone else has ever done what you did.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I was flying with the reserves when we got called up.
Yeah.
I can show you a real interesting picture if you want, but I got to run out to my car and get it.
No, go ahead and stay here with us. I may have it. Jack may have sent it to us. I'll look for it right now. But
I don't think he did.
No? Okay.
It has to do with flying U.S. senators. Oh,
okay. No, I wouldn't have that one then. But here's one. No, if you'd stay with us, please. Yeah, we is that Jack?
Yep.
Okay, so that's you and Jack.
Okay.
That's your son who reached out to me, and so you're both Black Hawk pilots in the Army on active duty at the same time.
Yeah.
And you flew in Desert Storm together.
Right. That's us in Desert Storm, and you can see the Black Hawk with door behind us.
Yes,
there.
sir. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now, did you fly in the same bird, or did you fly the same missions?
Well, they didn't make it up. They didn't make it. Believe it or not, everybody said, "Well, there were other pilots," and this goes back to Bob Jones. There were other pilots in the unit that said, "Well, they can't fly together, being father and son. That's against order. That's against regulations." And Bob Jones, who knew every regulation in the book, says, "Would you show me where that is in writing?" And of course, it doesn't exist.
Of course not. So, I mean, that'd be a silly regulation to make because it almost would never happen anyway. So.
Right. So anyway, Yeah, we flew together 3 or 4 times, but I mean, as a rule, they didn't put us in the same aircraft at
Sure.
the same time. And then after
That's
Desert Storm, see, my Jack, they wanted to keep. They said we were going to keep about 6 of our aircraft there in Kuwait after it was over, and hell, I volunteered, Jack volunteered, and they accepted both of us to stay there in Kuwait for another 6 months to do whatever. But then, they said, you don't want to do that to Big Al. The only reason, and then at the big welcome home ceremony, the CO, is we got our meritorious service medals and everything. Thanked me for being the one pilot that never gave him any trouble. He said, I wish all my pilots had your attitude, Al. He says things would have run a lot smoother.
there you go.
Hey, Al,
Huh?
any memorable missions from Desert Storm?
Well, that's what I was going to say. With flying the VIPs around, flying around the desert to Elding.
Oh,
We
okay.
get this mission, and I kept a real good. I mean, I took a good camera with me. One thing I regretted about Vietnam was I never got any good pictures in Vietnam of anything. So when I got
Sure.
called to go Desert Storm, man, I took a good,
Nice.
camera with me to get some great pictures. And I got the picture of these senators sitting in the back of my Black Hawk after I strapped them in and, gave them their briefing and everything and flew them around the oil well fires and stuff.
Oh, that's outstanding. Were they
Yeah,
green
well.
when you were done with them?
Huh?
Were they green when you were done with them?
Oh, no.
Okay.
But the last thing I did after I did that, I was like, okay, everybody. And I got my camera out and I snapped a picture of them. Okay, one of them in their picture is Mitch McConnell.
Okay.
The other one is a guy by the name of Hal Heflin, that was a senator from Alabama. He's
Yeah.
passed away. And I don't know who the couple others are, but the one guy sitting in the gunner's seat, kind of facing the back. You can put 5 people across the back in the Black Hawk, and then you got 2 gunner seats, one on each side, where the person can sit in that, and they basically sit looking kind of catty corner aft in the gunner seat. Okay. Well, the guy sitting in the gunner seat, I swear to God, had to have been Joe Biden, because it sure looks like him.
Oh.
And we were the same age at the time. I mean,
Yeah.
I was born on the 1st of September, 1942, and he was born on the 20th of November, 1942. So I'm 2 months and 20 days older than him.
Yeah, a whole lot better looking.
There you go. Tail Gunner Joe. So, all right. Well,
that was Joe McCarthy.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. That's.
That
I knew
was
that, but I thought, well, he was sitting in the gunner seat looking aft. I'd call him Tail Gunner Joe, but yeah, that was Joe McCarthy. That's what. That was his nickname.
You can't run many trivia. In fact, everybody when they have their trivia teams was wanting me to be on their team, because one time said, well, because they were having trivia night one time at this club, and I was sitting there, and one of the questions was name the capital of Oregon. And I mean, Salem.
Salem, yeah.
I can give you the capital of every state in the union. Just sitting here right now off my head.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, one other thing before we wrap, I'd like to ask about this. It's called Marine Patches. You founded Marine Patches.
Yeah. Every 2 years, Papa Smoke, which is the Marine Combat Helicopter Association, has a reunion somewhere.
Okay.
And I remember at the reunion sometime in around 1988, sometime in that area, the subject came up about getting patches from the old squadrons from Vietnam.
Okay.
And, I mean, back then, somebody would be going on R&R to the Philippines or Taiwan or someplace like that. And, they used to make them, they'd hand sew them there in the Far East on, if you had a picture of what they wanted, they'd make them for you and bring them back to the squadron. So I smelled a business opportunity there, see if there was any real interest in it. So I had the 27 Marine helicopter squadrons that served in Vietnam. I had their patches made up and took them the next reunion. And I had about 30 or 40 of each one done. I contacted an embroidery company up in North Carolina that did those. And I had the patches made and bought them and took them there and sold them for like $5 a piece. And, there was they flying off the rack and everything. And then then somebody brought up the thing about why don't we, make them for fixed wing squadrons, and then the Navy got a hold of it and somehow, and now
where are they made now? Where are the patches actually physically put together?
I don't know where they're being made now because Jack's taken over the business.
Okay.
I mean, I know I've been down to his warehouse in Corpus Christi, Texas, where they're all down there, and he's got full-time employees that do nothing but fill orders and send them out in the mail. And there's a couple of embroidery machines back there in the back that can print, can make 24. So I assume he's making them down there. And because I basically turned the whole business over to him and got out of it.
Sure. There you go. All right. But it's marinepatches.com. And when I was talking to Jack briefly, he said, yeah, that's VMA 223. He goes, it's one of the patches we make. He goes, it's one of the very few squadrons that doesn't buy our patches. You can get a 223 patch from marinepatches.com, but for whatever reason, their coffee mess officer is not a customer. Are you listening, lads?
That's crap. It's crap, I say.
Take care of a former Marine and his son, an Army aviator. Go to marinepatches.com. Mr. Hinton, would you sit with us for just a few minutes while we say our thank yous, and then we'll chat a little more on the back side of that. First, though, I'd like to thank you for your service, both in the Army and the Marine Corps, to this great nation. We're deeply grateful to you for your service.
Sir. It was all good, I always say people that I got to fly for 34 years and chalked up somewhere in the neighborhood of 7,000 hours of flight time, and there's not a crash out anywhere in the world that's got my name on it.
Right on. And that's the way you want to end a flying career. Fantastic.
Yeah, nowhere did I ever crash one or even damage one to some degree,
Right.
I remember coming back from Vietnam on a mission one time, and apparently there, on the UEs, that little stabilizer on the back there looks like a little wing on the back.
Right.
I remember coming back off a mission one time, and there were a couple of bullet holes through that. But I don't know when that happened or anything, because sometimes you'd be laying down suppressive fire to support the guys on the ground, and the bad guys might shoot back at you just out of self-defense, with a AK. But and you got to be really skilled to shooting something down out of the air. You got to be a good duck hunter or something, to lead them properly and everything, because you're probably going to miss. If you aim directly at them, you're probably going to hit them somewhere in the tail section, maybe.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Well, I also want to thank all active duty and veterans. Thank you for your service and to the first responders, and as well to those who are not thanked nearly enough, to the families who sacrifice so much so that the veterans and active duty were able to do their jobs and do so effectively.
Yep. Ditto.
Yeah. Any other thank yous there, Fig?
Well, yeah. He's gone. He left us. He had to go, guard the gene pool, so he says. But thanks to Sticks and Bago. Bago wasn't here today, but He's in the background all the time, and Sticks was in the background today. Thanks to those guys for making it look easy.
Absolutely. And thanks to Dave Hamilton over at backbeatmedia.com, who handles our advertising and gave us the know-how to bring this show to you. We're deeply grateful to Dave and backbeatmedia.com.
Hey, don't forget, we have a merch store. So there I was.us/merch.
Yeah.
Koozies, hats, mugs, bikinis. Hey,
Right
I know
on.
we're wrapping up bikini season in North America, but in South America, it's just getting going.
Right, exactly. But I'll tell you this, it's becoming hoodie season, and we've got a wonderful hoodie that's warm, comfortable, and looks all kinds of cool when you're wearing it. So mugs and koozies and that kind of stuff. Let's see, what else? Oh, perhaps you would be kind enough to go out and give us a 5-star rating. So there I was.us/rate and give us that 5-star rating. Not 3 stars, not 2 stars. If you want to give us a 3-star rating, tell us why. Because, we're trainable.
We're trainable.
Yeah. We could figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think Badass and Bago. Sticks and Bago, but Badass. Aviation Photography, BDSAviationPhotography.com, who brought us our guest today.
Yeah, thanks, Badass. And you can hear them in the background now. That's the 2 F-16 pilots that make the Air Force sound good, the Dos Gringos. They let us use their music. They've been on our program twice. They're awesome individuals, and they have hilarious music.
They really do. It's great stuff. So thank you, gents. We're deeply humbled. So there I was.us/Patreon. If you want to give us a donation to help keep our tanks full to bring the shows to you, we're deeply humbled for all of those of you who have lost all sense of financial responsibility and cracked your wallets and given money to us. We can't believe you do it.
How about our guest from 2 weeks ago who sent us a donation?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Jeff Carr gave us that check. We thanked him last week, but again, thank him again because, man, $500, largest single donation we've ever gotten. Thank you. We're humbled. So, I don't know, Fig. Any advice till next week?
Well, in this case, we could say don't sit on the ejection handle or the collective.
Don't do it. That's right. He's got one of the few that's got both.
Yes, he's
ejection
got both.
seat and collective time. Take care, folks.
There I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
Oh, hold on. What do you say about the North Atlantic?
He said it's colder than Will Digger's ass.
Oh, okay. He said something else, though.
He said we knew that water was damn cold.
Yeah. But when you're going down, it's what?
It's over.
Where the hell have you been, soldier?
Training, sir!
What kind of training, son?
Army training, sir!
And we are out. All right, everyone. I need to end the stream because we have some technical issues that may affect us. So I'm going to do that now. Thank you for joining us today. Take care of yourself, Dizzy, Badass, everyone else that's out there. We're humbled. Thank you.